No,
I don't need to do anything, right?
We just freeze. Okay. Then when he jumped down, boom, then we start moving again.
Like so freaking
No, do for fun.
Samuel,
we have to freeze,
director,
then you have to fly in.
Do you agree with this approach?
Hello, welcome to another episode of Explained by. I'm Zhenyu.
I'm Herman.
And today we have a very special guest, a friend of ours. Come, let's welcome our local science fiction action director, Samuel Delitans Lee. Hi, welcome Samuel.
Wait, shut up!
What a dramatic entrance. Yo.
I was sleeping halfway and then suddenly I'm all dressed.
Okay.
Alright, hello everyone. So my name is Samuel. I'm actually an editor-director specializing in the action genre in Singapore.
So can you sum up in one sentence what exactly does what does a director do?
Basically, a director, he or she envisions the entire outlook of the film from start to end. Finish one sentence.
One sentence. Okay.
Can you elaborate?
sorry, because I shouldn't have said one sentence.
So for my experience, the disclaimer here, for myself as a director, some of the things that I may voice out may contradict how other directors may work or how other directors may envision their film. But according to my experience, a director is a person that basically leads the entire team. He is the one that visualizes the final outlook of the film from start to finish. But with that being said, he also is responsible in making tough or relevant decisions when a crew comes together, and then everyone would have different type of questions. Sometimes it can be the most minute detail where you want to film a coffee shop and they tell you what kind of food you want to put on the table. And you just put any food No, doesn't need to be rice, noodles, veggie or meat. Okay, these are the things that don't add anything to the film, but the director needs to call for it. If not, everyone in the crew is quite lost. And mainly I would sum it up by to say a director just problem solve.
With respect to that, I think it is quite clear that the producer and director has to work quite closely together. Maybe you can share a little bit about what the relationship between a producer and a director is sort of like.
Okay.
Yeah. Like who is really in charge of what, and what is the dynamics between those people?
Okay, understand. I think overall when the director has an idea, for any producer, he or she would want the director to be as crazy or as ambitious as possible, then tone it back. I think what you do not want to see in a director is a director saying anything. So if a director have a very specific, let's say he wants a rain scene, but they can't afford a rain machine, is there other ways? So there is a short film that I did, it's called Timecase. It is one of my most ambitious projects. Okay, so in that scene there is a rain scene as well, but we don't have a rain machine. So what we actually did was that we hosted up a long hose, then we poke holes, and then we get in sprayers, right? And we got in 4 sprayers from different directions to spray water. I think one thing that I give praise for my producer here, his name is Charles and Herman. I think what both of them did was they never said no unless it is impossible to do. So even when I wanted a rain sequence, they would ask the questions like, okay, so how do I execute or make a rain sequence without any rain machine? Okay, and this one is really props to my producer for really putting up with my ambitious thoughts and letting it come to pass.
I think to give the viewers a better understanding or context of the entire hierarchy in the film, in the process of making a film. So when an idea comes about, then who gets involved, and then from the producer to the director to the writer side, what is the role of the director, and what's the hierarchy like?
So in the US, what happens is that the producer actually has the most power in the production. If the producer doesn't like the director, he or she has the rights to fire the director and then get in. That's why there are sometimes that you have reshoots but you have a different director. Han Solo and Justice League. So these are not decisions made from the director or from the studios itself. It's actually from the producer that is producing this, okay? But here in Singapore, it's a little bit different. I would say that in terms of writing, producing and directing, all these three roles needs to complement each other. If there is any of the three roles that is at odds with each other or one another, it will really cock up the entire shoot. Let me phrase that. It will really mess up the entire shoot. Where you can have a very, very well produced film with good acting, but then the dialogue sucks. You don't have a good film. Or you can bring in unknown actors, but your dialogue could be very good. Or you can have a very low budget, a single location with one actor, but the dialogue is good, and you have it. So I would say that it is a necessary collaboration. But if you really want to put a hierarchical structure in a Singapore context, it will be a producer-director, then followed by writer. So sorry, writers. They don't have their. Sometimes the writers can write their
Actually,
own
a lot of
dream.
times, and then maybe sometimes you have all three people
Doing what?
all three roles performed by the same guy.
Yes, so he has total control.
Yeah. But in that respect, what is the downside of having all three roles performed by one person?
Okay, I've thought about this before. Having a downside to this, right? There is never a case actually in Singapore that you have a good writer, good producer, and a good director. Not even Anthony Chen has don't have that. Okay? I think even big names in Singapore will not be confident to say that they can write, produce, and direct at the quality that they would want to. Definitely, if a director is good in writing, he or she may not move into producing. They would then outsource it to another producer that is able to first find location, find actors, and be able to fulfill what the director wants. But yet you have a director who is good in producing, getting all the necessary resources, good in directing, but not good in dialogue. So then he or she would then outsource to a writer who has very strong writing capabilities, but not producing and directing. So they have to complement each other. If not, there will be one area that will be lacking.
Last week we actually we talked about the three phases of production for a producer. So how is the director exactly involved in the three phases of production? Maybe we start with the pre-production.
Pre-production. Okay. So when the pre-production starts, according to my experience, it works differently from every other
Disclaimer all the time.
Disclaimer all the time. Okay. So for pre-production, how I would usually work is that I will work with my writer or producer with the synopsis of the story. So there is no specific dialogue written. There are no locations or firmed up locations, but we'll basically come with either a log line or a outline of the story. Okay, so we will not go into big details until that part is confirmed. Then we say, okay, so the skeleton of the whole story is finished. Then we will move into further pre-production, which is to have casting or audition, to go for location scouting, to find your crew. Because when you in my own production, there's no one that comes to me, so I find my own crew every single short film. So I would then find whether we have similar goals, whether we have similar thinking as well. Yeah, and then I would then decide whether they will be a part of this crew. And this is just the whole part of pre-production. Even though story is indeed king, if you don't have your crew members supporting you in this vision, they will be like employees. They will just do the work, and then whether it turns out good or not.
What do you mean by supporting? Because why can't they just be employees and still support you? Why must it be? You get what I mean, right?
Yes. Okay, because all the other production that I'm on is always low budget. Okay, it's not like you have you seek for sponsorship and then you have 100,000 or 200,000 to work for, and then I just pay my crew to just work for it. But all of my productions that I have been with are mostly, if they are fresh new faces, they would have to agree with my vision, think alongside with me, and also support me because it's a passion project. Okay, it will be different if it's set on a more professional settings where a person is then paid to work. Then he or she has no relations into it. They just need to make sure whether the quality of the outcome is good, and then That's it.
Maybe what is how is a production like for a director? I mean, we always see the typical behind the scenes when it comes to a director role. He's basically sitting behind the
monitor,
the little screen, right? And then he's always has his own chair, that kind of thing. So I think in Singapore it's a little bit different. Right? I mean, depends on how big your budget is. You might not actually get a very nice, comfy chair with your own name printed at the back.
That's true.
So maybe run us through a little bit about what the director's role is like
On set.
on the set. Like what is his job?
So as a director, when I arrive on set, the crew will be setting up all their equipment. So I will be with the actors. We will run through our lines, and then what we will communicate is that, okay, what is this whole scene about? What is the backstory to this? And how will we communicate the emotions that comes out from this scene? So I give an example. You could be directing a scene in the house where there is a breakup that happens. Okay, but your actors have not even met each other, so you need to get that straight, and then you need to work towards an emotion that they are actually together, and then they are slowly breaking up as it goes on. Okay, so as a director itself, you first have to set up. Okay, they need to be comfortable. Both actors and actresses need to be comfortable together. Then after that, okay, what is that one moment that they had a disagreement, and then you get a lot more friction before they say, okay, they want to break up.
So I think it's mainly giving the actors a little bit of a backstory, and it doesn't help that we always shoot not in order, right?
Yeah,
so maybe just yesterday we were shooting, they were just lovey-dovey, then suddenly the next day they break up. So it doesn't help that we sometimes do that. Then maybe next, I think maybe you can explain to us your relationship with the director of photography, or what we always know as the DP, and he's probably the guy who is dictating how the shots will actually look like on film, right? So maybe share with us a little bit about the relationship between you, a director, and the director of photography. What is that like?
Okay, I can share. The relationship with the director of photography and the director is that I think one key thing that I always will stand by is not to micromanage. So what happens when I talk to the DP is that I would want he or she to have his or her own freedom on how to frame the shot. Okay, so that's one. But I will also talk about the tone. So let's say if we are going to, same thing, we're leveraging on the breakup scene. Do you want it to be cold? Do you want it to be bright? Or do you want it to be really dark and contrasty? So the outlook of the film sometimes can be made by the director or the DP itself. But what I will agree is that I will just tell what the scene is about, and I will let or trust my director of photography to execute.
What is it really like? Like for example, okay, if I'm the director, or rather you are the director and I'm the DP right now. So, and we have this breakup scene that we need to film. So, how do we go about this discussion? Do you tell me, let's say you tell me, okay, there's this breakup scene. So what do you expect me as a director of photography to provide you?
Okay. To go into the details, what we will do is that it also coincides with the actors. So the director and DP will arrive on that filming location, and they will then do blocking. Blocking means you get in your actors and then you see where they stand
and
where they will walk. Okay, so the DP will then observe where they are gonna stand. If he or she already placed, let's say I wanna shoot from this angle, and let's say maybe the argument happens and he kicks away the glass, but you never see the glass falling, so then you need to frame it again. So whatever that you plan forth with the DP may not always 100% convert it to whatever it is like on set. Okay, so you would then have to go through multiple rehearsals. Okay, let the actors do over and over again, and then all of a sudden you may have a new angle, and sometimes it could be better than what the director have suggested. So it is to mainly trust the DOP to handle this.
Yeah, because I think what the main takeaway is that for one scene, you can film in a multitude of ways.
Yes.
That's the thing that people should take away. One breakup scene could have 10,000 ways to film.
Yeah.
But how the DP translates this for the director, that's when they try to complement each other, right?
Okay, with that maybe then we move into post-production.
Yeah.
So let's just say this is a short film without any special effects because the workflow is too long already. So just a usual short film, you are working with one editor. What is the working relationship?
Okay, but I'm usually the editor though.
Yeah,
Director,
he's an editor. Yeah.
Editor, director. Okay.
Okay, let's pretend.
Yeah, let's pretend.
Okay.
That you have an editor.
When you have an editor, I think this is one of the most overlooked relationship in all of the production, because when your editor can think like or at least have the same vision like the director, then you don't need to give a lot of instructions. If you pass it on to an editor that has no clue or no vision for this, what he or she will do is that he or she will just read the script and execute accordingly.
And then just
So cut.
But actually, I know of some editors where their working style is the director will pass the film, the shots and everything to the editor, and then they will let the editor sit on it.
Well, without no script.
I mean, they will pass the script, but they will let the editor sit on the shots with the script, and then for a few days, and then just let him do what he will.
Yes, correct.
And then subsequently, the director will come in and look at what the editor has probably done, because the editor is, they always say the editor is the second director. Right? You get to direct the film again from the editing station, right?
Correct.
So I think one train of thought is that you let the editor do what he wants with the film, because he sees it differently, because he probably wasn't even on set. Yeah, so he sees the shots in a very different manner compared to everyone who was on set.
Correct.
So I mean, I don't know about you, but is this something that is this a practice that you subscribe to, where you think that if you had an editor, would you let him or she go through your footage and do what he or she wants with your footage before coming in and say, hey, actually, now that I've seen what you have done, I didn't even think of that, and that actually is pretty good. And I know there are some films that actually ended up like that, where they took the editor's vision instead of the director's vision, because it was better there.
Okay, if you don't have the dual roles, means if a director cannot envision and he's just executing, what you're going to have is that he has no idea what the final product is going to be like. Okay, compared to an editor, when the script comes over, he or she will read through it. And yes, the processing of this is important, because he or she may look at the script and says, maybe the first scene may not be a good scene. Maybe they can be maybe the fourth scene. Or there could be a structure like the A, B, C, D. A is the beginning, D is the ending. What happens if you swap it around? You want the C to be in the beginning, followed by A, B, C, then D. Would it be a bit more engaging as a short film? And for a short film, you only have around 15 to 20 minutes of story, so you want it to be the most engaging or most thought-provoking, and you don't want your 20 minutes to be boring.
So you are saying that this is the liberty that the editor has?
Yes,
that
as a second director
sometimes might not have.
Yes,
because the director
sadly, it may not have.
is probably very fixated on his first and
Correct.
ultimate vision, right? And then the editor, because he has not seen it before, he is able to vision it differently.
Correct.
And it might actually turn out better for the film.
Which is good also, because to add on to that, an editor is like your audience. He or she do not know what goes on set. He or she do not know how much time you spend on set. You can spend 10 whole hours
on one shot.
So, and then after that, the editor can look at it and say, it doesn't add anything to the story, and then he'll cancel out. But the director is like, no.
Because we spent 10 days on this.
Must have it. So there is the emotional attachment
to the shoot, right?
Correct. But as an editor, right, if he or she comes in as a new audience, they don't care. They don't care.
They just care about
the storytelling.
Correct. And that is important, because when you present it to your audience, they won't care whether you spend 10 days on a single shot. They just really want to look at it and say, hey,
does it make sense?
Does it make sense? Do I understand the story? Does it leave an impression? Okay. And if your editor can do that, then yes, that's a good editor. What you do not want your editor to do is to blindly follow. This is what the script says, I just execute accordingly, and then
I've always thought of production as like preparing a dish. So in pre-pro, you make out like your shopping list, right, what you want to buy, and then production, you start to procure. You go to the supermarket and then you start to buy a dish. But in the post is where you put everything together
and you start
cooking it. But So different chef will come up with different. The taste will be a bit different lah. So that will be the role of the editor. You agree with me or not, Samuel?
For this, right, for the cooking portion, it will be good that the person buys the food, can cook the food also. But if the person who has never bought the food, he or she can still cook it.
and he will have attachment to the ingredients.
I don't care if you spend $10 on the avocado, I'm not using it.
Yeah, correct. I think that's a good analogy.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe we talk about your Timecase film. We give you a shout out.
So Timecase is actually a action sci-fi short film. It is about a hitman or an assassin that has gone rogue against his own organization that has the power to manipulate time.
Okay.
That is the one sentence to sum
Then we
up.
can start playing the trailer. Let's watch the trailer.
What do you mean you can't make a choice? I love you. But whatever you're doing right now, it's not worth it. Say something. Anything to assure me.
Jen, I'm trying to make this work. But it's not that simple.
What you have before you is something extraordinary. Do not be quick to judge it by its appearance. Knowledge is power, is it not? True power is being in control of something no one else can. Is that why you went rogue? Follow exactly as I tell you. I have foreseen this.
Thank you for sharing, Samuel. I think so we have come to the end of the show.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we had a very fruitful sharing from Samuel.
Thank you. Thanks, Herman.
And remember to catch his.
Yeah, so if you want to watch Timecase, where can we watch?
Oh, you can actually. So what you can do is that you can actually follow Little Works Productions Facebook page. I can give them in the link in the description below, and then you can stay tuned because I'm actually planning another crime action that will be coming out this year. But the release of the film will be early next year. Okay, so stay tuned for that for my next coming film.
We want to thank Samuel for coming down to our show today, and we'll be doing a lot more episodes where we invite different personalities. Maybe if you are interested in such content, you can leave your comment below and tell us what personalities you would like for us to bring on the show. There are still so many roles that we can bring on. Sound man,
A lot.
We have our art department, right? And then we have our DP, which is one of the biggest people that most interesting people that we can bring on. So once again, we thank you, Samuel, for coming on again, and we'll see you the next time.
You can leave your questions down below if you have any, and then we will get Samuel to answer them.
Yes.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Nice plan.
Don't be awkward.